The heavy wooden door of a suburban Minnesota home closes. A young mother is sealed inside with a chilling ultimatum. Her partner looks her in the eye and delivers a calm and calculated warning. If she does not listen to him, she will end up just like Gabby Petito. Winona, Minnesota, sits nestled along the winding banks of the freezing Mississippi River. The picturesque town features historic red brick facades, wide sidewalks, and quiet avenues where residents watch over one another. Madeline Kingsbury builds her life in this peaceful and connected community. She is 26 years old. She works as a highly respected clinical researcher at the prestigious Mayo Clinic. Her colleagues know her for her brilliant analytical mind and her unwavering dedication to public health initiatives. Beyond her demanding professional career, her entire universe revolves around her two young children. She builds a world of warmth and absolute stability for them. She fills their home with laughter, educational toys, and planned daily routines. Madeline maintains deep and loving bonds with her parents and her siblings. She speaks to them on the phone throughout the busy work week. To the outside observer, she embodies the perfect picture of a thriving young professional balancing motherhood and an ambitious career. Yet a heavy and suffocating silence lingers behind the drawn curtains of her home on Cary Drive. Madeline shares her home with Adam Fravel, her intermittent partner of 7 years. The relationship wears a convincing public mask of normalcy, but private digital records tell a different and terrifying story. Fravel continues to live under her roof despite their recent separation, creating a suffocating environment. The physical layout of the small suburban home forces them into constant and unavoidable physical proximity. Madeline documents the escalating psychological warfare and physical intimidation out of fear for her safety. She saves pictures of text messages detailing terrifying encounters in hidden folders on her personal laptop. In these messages, she confronts Fravel about putting his hands around her neck and pushing her to the floor in full view of their young children. She endures this systematic emotional torture while trying to shield her son and daughter from the domestic chaos. Fravel views her growing independence as a direct threat to his authority, building a quiet resentment that permeates the entire household. The local authorities remain unaware of the escalating danger behind closed doors. This highlights a tragic reality where victims of domestic terror often fight their hardest battles in total isolation without systemic support. The atmosphere inside the house reaches a dangerous boiling point in the early months of 2023. Madeline reaches her absolute limit and begins making concrete financial plans for a fresh start. She envisions a future where she and her children can thrive in peace and total security. She wants them far away from the oppressive shadow of her former partner. She takes a definitive step toward freedom by setting clear boundaries. Madeline informs Fravel that she is seeing someone else, closing the door on their romantic history. This bold declaration shatters his illusion of permanent control over her life. Fravel realizes that his manipulative grip on her is slipping away forever. Madeline starts organizing her bank accounts and planning a new living arrangement. She looks forward to the upcoming spring season, viewing it as the definitive beginning of her true independence. She refuses to let his previous threats dictate her future or intimidate her into submission. The young mother stands on the precipice of a beautiful new chapter in her life. She remains unaware of the dark machinery setting into motion just down the hallway. The morning of March 31st, 2023, begins like any standard weekday for the Kingsbury family. A bitter spring chill hangs in the air as the sun rises over the quiet streets of Winona. Shortly after 8 o'clock in the morning, Madeline and Adam Fravel load their two children into the family vehicle. They drive the short distance to a local daycare center to drop the children off for the day. Security cameras capture the routine exchange, showing nothing out of the ordinary in their body language. Following the drop-off, the pair returns to the residence of Madeline on the 400 block of Carey Drive. They arrive back at the house at exactly 8:15 in the morning. Madeline settles into her home office space to prepare for her scheduled remote shift at the Mayo Clinic. At 8:15, she sends a cheerful text message to her sister Megan. The message contains a shared inside joke and a bright photo from a past family trip. It reflects her typical bright spirit and optimistic mood. It is the final communication anyone in the world will ever receive from her. The normal rhythm of the day derails when Madeline fails to log in to her secure corporate work portal. Her colleagues at the Mayo Clinic notice her absence upon checking the daily roster. Missing a scheduled shift goes against her meticulous and responsible professional nature. Hours tick by in absolute silence as phone calls to her device go unanswered. The afternoon stretches into the early evening, and the daycare center prepares to close its doors for the weekend. Madeline never arrives to pick up her children from the facility. This glaring red flag sends a jolt of pure panic through her extended family. Adam Fravel later speaks to police investigators offering a specific and calculated timeline of his own movements that day. He claims he left the Carey Drive home around 10 o'clock in the morning. He states he drove the 2014 dark blue Chrysler Town and Country minivan of Madeline to move storage boxes to the house of his parents. According to his official account, he returned to the residence later that afternoon to find her gone. He insists he assumed she walked to work, despite the freezing outdoor temperatures and the verified fact that she worked remotely. The sun sets over Winona, casting long dark shadows across the empty concrete driveway on Carey Drive. The family of Madeline attempts to reach her cell phone over and over again, but their desperate calls go straight to voicemail. At 8:30 in the evening, a concerned friend drives to the 400 block of Carey Drive to check the property. The friend parks on the quiet residential street and walks up to the front door. The crisp evening silence feels heavy and unnatural. The 2014 dark blue Chrysler Town and Country minivan sits parked in the center of the driveway. The friend knocks on the heavy front door, but no one answers from inside. The house remains dark and still, projecting an unsettling and hollow emptiness. Recognizing the severe deviation from the daily routine of Madeline, the friend dials emergency services for help. Dispatchers route the urgent call to the local police department, reporting the 26-year-old mother missing. Patrol cruisers arrive at the property moments after receiving the dispatch alert. Their bright headlights sweep across the quiet suburban lawn and illuminate the dark house. The officers step out into the freezing night air to begin their preliminary search. They are unaware that they are standing at the exact epicenter of a planned tragedy. The first rays of morning light break across the freezing Mississippi River on April 1st. Law enforcement agencies face a rigid procedural hurdle regarding missing adult cases. Standard police protocol requires waiting 48 hours before launching a full-scale investigation for a missing adult. Detectives bypass this dangerous legal loophole when they discover the personal items of Madeline inside the Carey Drive residence. Her wallet, identification, and Apple Watch remain untouched on the kitchen counter. The jacket she wore earlier that morning still hangs by the front door. A mother dedicated to her children would never abandon these essential items. Winona Police Department officials activate a massive regional search protocol. The physical geography of Winona County presents a severe logistical nightmare for search and rescue teams. Steep limestone bluffs tower over deep ravines and miles of dense forest terrain. 2,000 volunteers converge on the local fire department to form search grids. They walk shoulder to shoulder through the freezing mud and thick underbrush. Search dogs sweep the perimeter of the Cary Drive home, but fail to pick up a departing scent trail. The sheer lack of physical footprints outside the house signals a terrifying reality to the lead investigators. Detectives bring Adam Fravel into an interrogation room to clarify his movements on the day of the disappearance. The small room features stark white walls, a metal table, and a single overhead fluorescent light. Fravel maintains a calm exterior and presents himself as a devoted, concerned father. He repeats his claim that he drove the 2014 dark blue Chrysler Town and Country minivan to the house of his parents. Investigators cross-reference his spoken timeline with municipal surveillance cameras positioned along his stated route. The rigid timeline provided by Fravel fractures under the weight of digital evidence. Traffic cameras capture the dark blue minivan leaving the Winona city limits at 10 in the morning. The vehicle travels south on State Highway 43, heading away from the residence of his parents. The camera footage reveals the minivan returning to the Winona city limits at 1:30 in the afternoon. This creates a massive 3.5-hour window of unaccounted time. Detectives press him on this glaring inconsistency during subsequent interviews. Fravel offers vague deflections and refuses to provide a logical explanation for the southern detour. The facade of the cooperative partner begins to crack under the pressure of basic police work. The investigation team uncovers a dark, psychological layer to the case while interviewing friends and family members. Witnesses report a disturbing obsession Fravel held regarding a specific high-profile national tragedy. They detail his intense infatuation with the Tuesday 21 disappearance of Gabby Petito. Friends describe how Fravel studied the media coverage and law enforcement missteps of that specific case. The chilling warning he delivered to Madeline behind closed doors reaches the ears of the lead detectives. Investigators confront Fravel about the threat that Madeline would meet the exact same fate. Fravel looks the detectives in the eye and admits he made the statement. He attempts to neutralize the horror of his words by dismissing the threat as a simple joke. The interrogation team recognizes this as a classic tactic of psychological manipulation. Abusive partners mask their true intentions behind the shield of dark humor to maintain plausible deniability. The admission sends a cold shockwave through the command center. Investigators realize they are dealing with a man who telegraphed his actions and felt absolute confidence in his own superiority. The massive ground search in the immediate Winona area hits a frustrating and undeniable dead end. Volunteers comb through the local parks, riverbanks, and suburban fields for 2 grueling weeks. Dive teams plunge into the freezing waters of the Mississippi River with sonar equipment. They scan the murky river but find zero trace of the missing mother. The initial search radius yields no physical evidence, no discarded clothing, and no clues. Public pressure mounts as the days tick by without a single major breakthrough. Fravel attempts to control the narrative by releasing a formal public statement through his defense attorney. He denies any involvement in the disappearance of the mother of his children. He demands privacy for his family and claims he is cooperating with the local authorities. The written statement projects the image of an innocent man enduring an unfair public trial by media. The community reads his defensive words while continuing to stand in the freezing rain to search for Madeline. Behind the scenes, investigators ignore his public posturing and refuse to let the dead end stop their momentum. Detectives execute sweeping search warrants for all digital devices and cellular data linked to the Cary Drive residence. Cyber forensic units extract raw location pings from the cell phone towers south of Winona. The data maps a specific geographical path taken by the dark blue minivan on March 31st. The digital breadcrumbs lead investigators 50 miles south of the initial search grid. The terrain transitions from the steep river bluffs of Winona into the deep rural expanse of Fillmore County. This new search zone features miles of isolated gravel roads, dense timber, and scattered agricultural properties. Law enforcement cross-references property records with the recent cellular tracking data. The search results reveal a massive red flag that shifts the entire trajectory of the case. The extended family of Adam Fravel owns a large parcel of rural property in this exact jurisdiction. The 3.5-hour window of unaccounted time aligns with a round-trip drive to this specific location. Police commanders pull resources away from the Winona city limits. They pivot their focus toward the desolate county highways connecting the towns of Choice and Mabel. Detectives know the answers lie hidden somewhere in the vast quiet fields of Fillmore County. The shift in jurisdiction from Winona County to Fillmore County requires a massive logistical reorganization. Detectives coordinate with local sheriff deputies to establish a new command center near Highway 43. The landscape in this southern region presents an entirely different set of environmental challenges for the search teams. Endless stretches of public gravel roads wind through isolated valleys and thick overgrown ravines. Investigators map out the specific boundaries of the property owned by the family of Fravel. They draw concentric search circles radiating outward from the edges of the private land. Search and rescue coordinators instruct volunteers to look for subtle signs of disturbed earth or broken branches. Law enforcement officers secure the perimeter of the target zone to protect potential forensic evidence. The change in location brings a renewed sense of urgency to the exhausted search crews. The community of Winona refuses to abandon the mission and drives 50 miles south to join the new grid. Detectives stand at the edge of the rural highway and stare out into the vast wilderness. They prepare to uncover the horrific reality concealed within the quiet Minnesota landscape. The agonizing search stretches into the heavy heat of early summer. 69 days pass since the young mother vanished from her quiet suburban home. The Kingsbury family endures a waking nightmare of unanswered questions and profound silence. On the afternoon of June 7, 2023, the vast landscape of Fillmore County surrenders a dark secret. A local deputy patrols a desolate public gravel road near State Highway 43. This remote route winds through the deep rural expanse between the small agricultural communities of Choice and Mabel. The deputy spots a disturbance near a concrete culvert, hidden beneath a thick canopy of overgrown brush. The heavy scent of damp earth and stagnant water hangs in the humid afternoon air. The officer steps out of his patrol cruiser and approaches the shadow of the drainage structure. He makes a grim discovery concealed within the dense roadside vegetation. A human form lies hidden in the brush, secured in a terrifying and calculated manner. A gray fitted bed sheet encases the body. Layers of heavy silver duct tape bind the fabric. A knotted towel rests around the neck area, painting a horrific picture of the final moments. Law enforcement secures the perimeter and calls the forensic recovery unit to the desolate scene. The medical examiner transports the tragic discovery to the county morgue for official identification. Dental records and physical markers confirm the devastating reality for the waiting family. The victim is 26-year-old Madeline Kingsbury. The forensic pathologist conducts a meticulous examination of the physical evidence. The medical report determines the cause of death as homicidal violence caused by asphyxiation. This clinical finding confirms the ultimate realization of the dark warning spoken months prior. Detectives shift their intense focus to the exact geographical coordinates of the recovery site. The concrete culvert sits mere minutes away from property owned by the extended family of Adam Fravel. This undeniable physical link shatters any remaining illusion of coincidence. The vast 3.5-hour window of missing time matches the drive to this exact gravel road. Investigators map the route, proving the dark blue minivan drove straight to this desolate location on the morning of March 31st. The Winona Police Department moves with absolute precision following the positive identification. Detectives secure a grand jury indictment and draft an immediate arrest warrant. Within hours of the tragic confirmation, tactical units surround the location of Adam Fravel. The man who cast himself as a grieving father steps out of the door to face the flashing red and blue lights. Law enforcement officers place him in heavy steel handcuffs, ending his long facade of innocence. The community watches in stunned silence as the authorities secure him in the back of a patrol cruiser. The arrest forces the town to confront a terrifying psychological truth. The predator did not hide in the dark alleys or break through a window in the middle of the night. He sat at the dinner table, drove the children to daycare, and wore the convincing mask of an ordinary suburban partner. He utilized his knowledge of the isolated family land to conceal his actions from the world. The apprehension of the suspect brings a crushing wave of finality to the Investigation Command Center. Detectives review the timeline and realize the sheer arrogance driving the fatal encounter. Fravel believed his connection to the isolated Fillmore County property provided the perfect shield against discovery. He assumed the deep ravines and thick timber would erase the physical evidence of his actions forever. The chilling prophecy he delivered behind closed doors echoes through the halls of the police department. He promised the young mother she would meet a permanent end if she defied his total control. He executed this threat when she dared to seek a life of peace and independence. The successful recovery operation proves no amount of geographic isolation can defeat relentless police work. The careful documentation saved by the victim on her personal laptop now serves as the ultimate weapon against her abuser. Law enforcement transitions from the physical search into the complex preparation for a high-stakes courtroom battle. The massive public attention surrounding the tragedy creates a severe legal hurdle for the prosecution team. Local media coverage saturates the Wina area, making seating an impartial jury in the home jurisdiction impossible. The defense team files a formal motion for a change of venue to protect the constitutional rights of the accused. The presiding judge approves the request and moves the judicial proceedings to Blue Earth County. This transfer demands a massive logistical effort from the state prosecuting attorneys. They transport thousands of pages of forensic reports, cellular data maps, and digital photographs across the state. The trial commences in a solemn courtroom filled with grieving family members and determined investigators. Prosecutors build a flawless chronological narrative for the jury, starting with the hidden domestic tension. They present the saved screenshots and text messages from the laptop of Madeline to establish the history of physical intimidation. The jury views the undeniable pattern of psychological warfare that escalated into a fatal loss of control. Expert witnesses take the stand to explain the cellular tower pings, tracking the dark blue minivan to the exact recovery site. The defense attempts to introduce alternative theories, but the sheer weight of the physical evidence crushes their arguments. They try to dismiss the chilling threat as a poor joke, but the jury recognizes the statement as premeditated intent. The state closes its case by reminding the court of the absolute vulnerability of the victim in her own home. The 12 members of the jury retreat to the deliberation room to weigh the immense volume of facts. Hours of tense silence pass in the halls of the Blue Earth County Courthouse. The jury returns to the courtroom, and the foreperson hands the official paperwork to the bailiff. The judge reads the verdict aloud, delivering the ultimate legal accountability. The court finds Adam Fravel guilty of first-degree premeditated homicide. The jury also convicts him on the severe charge of first-degree homicide with a past pattern of domestic abuse. A wave of profound emotional relief washes over the Kingsbury family seated in the front row. The legal proceedings return to a Winona County courtroom for the final sentencing phase. The parents and siblings of Madeline step forward to deliver their heartbreaking victim impact statements. They speak of her radiant smile, her brilliant mind, and her absolute devotion to her two young children. They ensure the court remembers her as a powerful force for good, rather than just a tragic statistic. The judge offers the convicted man an opportunity to address the court before handing down the penalty. Fravel stands before the microphone and maintains his complete denial of the established facts. He looks toward the family and states he never caused harm to Maddie and remains innocent. He thanks the court and steps back to his seat in cold defiance. The judge ignores the empty words and issues a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. The heavy wooden gavel strikes the sounding block, echoing with the finality of total justice. Deputies escort the convicted man out of the courtroom to begin his permanent removal from society at the St. Cloud Correctional Facility. The legal battle reaches its definitive conclusion on April 29, 2026. The Minnesota Supreme Court reviews the exhaustive trial record and the subsequent appeals filed by the defense. The High Court affirms the conviction, rejecting every attempt to overturn the life sentence. The justices confirm the overwhelming evidence demonstrating his extreme indifference to human life. This final ruling closes all legal loopholes and guarantees he will never walk free again. The Winona community begins the long and painful process of healing from the deep psychological scars of the tragedy. The friends and family of the young mother refuse to let the darkness of her final moments define her legacy. They establish the Madeline Kingsbury Foundation to advocate for other individuals trapped in cycles of domestic terror. The organization provides critical resources, safe housing, and legal support to those seeking a fresh start. The spirit of the brilliant clinical researcher lives on through this vital community work. Her children grow up surrounded by the enduring love of their extended family, safe from the shadow of the man who stole her future.